From the
I don't know what to say. I'm just speechless.
To the
Can't believe it.
we see all sorts of life-changing moments at McKinney Competitions. How would you react? Cars, houses, tech bundles and more from just £2 a ticket. No purchase necessary. For competitions, rules and conditions, see mckinneycompetitions.com.
You know, Rory Beggan, funny story, Rory, the Monaghan goalkeeper, he got gear off us. He was organising, he was head of Monaghan's development squads, and he organised gear for the development squads. And he rang us then, once we made delivery, he rang us and asked us to go for a coffee. And basically said, he delivered stuff in 4 weeks. It was all individually packed, it was all correct. He said, you wouldn't believe the hassle I've had in the previous years of putting these orders together. He said, and you were a lot cheaper. So he just said, I think there's something in this. Are you looking for someone? And to be honest, we weren't. We said it would be year two or the end of year one before we look for someone. But when someone like Rory comes along and is mad to get in, we said, look, we'll do it. So Rory became our first employee. That's September of the first year, and he's still with us, thank God.
Welcome to this week's Armagh podcast. It's Micheál here, not the voice you're usually used to hearing, but hopefully not too alarming. For this week's podcast, I had the pleasure of speaking to Kieran Quinn, a director and co-founder of sporting goods brand Playr-fit. Kieran, alongside friend and fellow co-founder Stephen Burns, who hails from Lurgan, watered the seeds of an idea just about 3 years ago in January past. While the repair remain very much hands-on, and that's everything from cleaning the office to picking and packing their product, their efforts have allowed the company to expand to a team of 15. Their first hire, Monaghan goalkeeper Rory Beggan, wasn't exactly planned, but it's worked out very well for the company. And over the next 30 minutes or so, our conversation takes us from the origins of Playr-fit just over 3 years ago to the present day, how they've expanded like they have, managing to be busier than ever during COVID, where sport would ground to a halt, and of course what the plans are for the future. Here, Kieran picks it up from the very beginning and how he and Stephen managed to end up in business together.
Yeah, we worked together for nearly 5 years with the GAA store. So Stephen was the sales manager there. I was a sales rep on the road, and being a sales manager, sales rep, there was that. So he was my boss, and you know, you had that. But there was a healthy relationship. We pushed hard at sales, and we worked well together. We kind of both had ideas to set up on our own, and we're leaving around the same time. And we said, look, we can go at this together, or we can go at it kind of against each other. And the market isn't that big, so we decided, look, we'll push on together. It halves the risk, but it also puts two good heads in there, and it was a good start. And for the first 9 months, it was just the two of us. We'd done everything in the office, so everything from sales to sort of picking and packing. We're still doing picking and packing at times, especially before Christmas, but we just get stuck in and we give it a go, and it's really grown from there. So there was a knowledge that we knew each other's good parts, we knew what we were strong at, and it's worked well together. So yeah.
It sounds like, you know, you had an idea, he had an idea. Was it a case of, I need to get it done before him, or he's taking not in a nasty way, but in a more, you know?
No, I actually didn't know he was going to go, and he kind of had an inkling that I was going. Sitting beside him at work, and he was my manager, and he kind of afterwards, a year down the line, he said, "You're asking too many questions." So I knew you were up to something. So he was thinking the same, and as it happens, we went for a coffee one day and just said, "Look, what do you think?" And it made sense. It made sense that to have two heads rather than one, because business can be lonely at times, and then when you can bounce ideas off people. It's someone you know and you can trust. It's a big help, and it's worked out well.
Yeah, I mean, it clearly looks like it's worked out well for you guys. In terms of the initial concept, then, you know, I'm assuming it's changed a bit from maybe those initial conversations.
It has and it hasn't. The biggest thing was we knew there was a need for an Irish brand with good quality gear and making it affordable. and we kind of stuck to that, and that's still our goal, is to make it affordable. I have 4 kids, Stephen has 2, all in sports, different sports. So one piece of gear doesn't do all of them. So you're buying gear for the swimming team, you're buying gear for the rugby team and the soccer team and the Gaelic team. So making it affordable was a big thing. But it had to be good quality, and it did take us a while to get that right. But thankfully we did, and that's the feedback we get as well. The feedback is that stuff is good, it washes well, it fits well, and people are actually they're not saving money because they're buying actually more of our gear, which is probably counterproductive. But you want to make something affordable, so instead of someone saving 20 quid, they're actually using that 20 quid to buy another top, which it's good for them. They get more for their money, and it's good for us as well.
Obviously, there's a big sporting influence in both areas. You talked about kids all playing sport, but it seems like this. I suppose most business owners would say something similar, but a labour of love. You're in the sporting game. There's obviously big sporting background. This is something you clearly love doing.
Yeah, well, look, since no age, we've both been in sport. Stephen played for our Rogue. I played in London for a while and then moved back to Culloville. Played with Culloville. My young fella and I was playing on the senior team. And the wife played for Armagh back in 2005, 2006. She won All Ireland with Armagh back then. So the whole house is sporty. We had a daughter who swam for Ireland. She's over at uni in England now. So look, sport is something our life evolves around it. So, and no different than Stephen. And speaking to Stephen on Saturday morning, he could be at a rugby side of a rugby pitch or side of a soccer pitch or a Gaelic pitch. That's our lives really. So kind of people might say not to go down the business route of what the rest of your life is, but I find it marries together. It blends so well that all our contacts, all our people, I could talk all day about sport really. So why not sport and gear? That's
Exactly. I mean, that sounds ideal. And in terms of Stephen and yourself, sporting connections, is it a good mix of sport there that you have, or what is the focus?
Both of us are from GA background, so it was natural that when we started that 80-90% of our customers were going to be GA. That's we quickly realized that you can't build a business on that. It's a comfortable thing where you're comfortable talking to these people and you know what their pain points are because you're in the game. Like I'm coaching a senior team in Louth, so you know what the players want, you know what their pain points are. So that's a comfort thing, and it helped start the business and get it growing. But we realised there's so many more sports out there, north and south, and even in the UK that aren't being serviced properly. And we've really got a foothold in rugby. We come up with a new material that the rugby clubs, especially down around the Munster and Leinster regions, are starting to really, really take notice of. Rugby is a game where you have your Canterbury's, you have your Cookeries, you have Samurais. They're all massive companies, but with that, there's a downside that you don't get that personal service, and there's longer lead times. So we're hearing the pain now of rugby clubs and what their pain points are. Soccer is big, and we've a couple of good things in the pipeline with soccer. So we're starting to branch out to other sports, and look, even and it might sound that I'm looking at these being small sports, but they're not. But your likes of swimming, your likes of boxing, we picked up a lot of clubs pre-Christmas that had Christmas shops on. They were huge for us, and it showed us that there's much more out there than your three big sports as such. There's a load of other sports that aren't being serviced. Netball, we're very big in netball in the north. But there's loads of clubs in the south and across the water as well. So we feel that we're going to try and branch away from that GA specific into other sports, and that's where the business is going to grow.
How different is it now than it was? Obviously, you brought on a lot of staff, but you said it was you and Stephen initially doing everything. And what was everything?
Everything you can think of, from answering phone calls to trying to get sales to meet people to when the orders came in to pick and pack them, to put them in the right boxes, to send them out to people, printing labels off for DPD, just everything. And to be honest, pre-Christmas, October, November, December, in a busy period, we were still doing the same things. We're not, we've grown, but the business, because the business, we still get stuck in. So just basically everything from cleaning the office. Like we couldn't, you weren't going to employ a cleaner. We just weren't that big. You had to go and do it yourself. So all that, and Rory Beggan. Funny story. Rory, the Monaghan goalkeeper, he got gear off us. He was organising. He was head of Monaghan's development squads, and he organised gear for the development squads. And he rang us then. Once we made delivery, he rang us and asked us to go for a coffee, and basically said, "You delivered stuff in 4 weeks. It was all individually packed. It was all correct." He said, "You wouldn't believe the hassle I've had in the previous years of putting these orders together." He said, and you were a lot cheaper." So he just said, "I think there's something in this. Are you looking for someone?" And to be honest, we weren't. We said it would be year two or the end of year one before we look for someone. But when someone like Rory comes along and is mad to get in, we said, "Look, we'll do it." So Rory became our first employee. That September of the first year, and he's still with us, thank God. And he's flying. He wasn't from a sales background, but he was from a sporting background, so he could talk at ease to people. He could talk to people at ease about sport, and then he would say, "This is what I'm doing," and it's worked out really well. So we've quickly jumped from Rory being our first to now having 15 staff, which is
Wow.
it's really good. Shows you where we've gone.
Yeah. So Rory is the influencer, should we say?
He is, but knowing him, and anyone that does know him, know that he's not that type. Rory would not use his name for anything. He's shy enough, but he loves sport. Like you could talk to him all day about golf or something else, a sport that he wouldn't even, but he talk all day to you about it. So having that sporting background helps. But at times we kind of wish he would use his name a wee bit more, but he doesn't. He's not one of these lads that goes out and says, "I'm Rory Beggan." That's the last thing he would say. But it's endearing to know that, and I think that sits well with people. That he doesn't.
Well, I mean, surely it obviously helps when he's bought into the product before actually being part of the product. Which it's probably a lot easier for him to sell. He's and it's worked for him. So,
well, that's like, even he's not from a sales background, but it gave him the confidence to go and sell it. And in sales, it's all about confidence, and he had total confidence in the product. He was willing to give up a job to go and sell this stuff. So, and that gave us a good bit of confidence to say we're doing the right thing here too. Which, so it was a win-win for both of us. And thankfully he's still here, and he's hopefully be here for a long time more, because he's a good lad. It's good to have him around the place.
Yeah, well, people are the most important part of a business, know. So, you mentioned the word confidence. Setting up a business, I don't think not an awful lot of people will say they were confident. You might have believed in your product, but confidence in setting up a business. Two guys. You mentioned the likes of the bigger brands. You're going into a market that has money behind it, and you talked about maybe the personal touch, but there must have been some element of doubt going against large brands like that.
You do know it's a risk, and you know that you're taking a punt. But being in the business before, it was kind of a less of a punt. Having both of us in was more less of a punt. We knew that there was a need for it. We knew there was people not being serviced properly from the big brands, and that's what we kind of brought to it. It still doesn't straight away. That's in your head, and you're thinking, yeah, I have a product that'll win. Can I get out there and sell? Yes, I believe I can get out there and sell, but you still don't know what way it's going to go. And pretty quickly, we got a taste that there's something here, and the growth since then is just been. I didn't expect it to grow so quickly, but I knew that if we get out in front of enough people, we could sell our product and sell us, and that's what we've done early on. And now we have salespeople. Now we have 4 salespeople on the road doing the same thing. So it's it is. You do doubt yourself sometimes, but then when you get the good feedback from customers, people are ringing you, or you get a nice message online on one of the social media saying, "Oh, I love the gear I got last year. Can we have more?" That returning customers is always the big thing.
And in setting up the business, Kieran, what what did that take? If you don't mind me asking, in terms of, I'm sure there's a capital input, probably a hefty capital input, and different things you have to consider. But how did you and Stephen go about? We want to set up a business, just right down to the nuts and bolts of it. How did you set it up?
Yeah, well, it didn't. To be honest, it didn't cost as much as we thought it would. We the biggest thing was getting the right supplier, and then you know the biggest money was investing in a designer who can come up with our designs, um, and then getting that to go over to the supplier. So it was more time spent, it was more hours put in to get it right rather than money. Um, and then we just had to go out and sell ourselves, and social media played a big part. We had to get
Okay.
word out there. Obviously, we had a customer base we could that we've dealt with before. We could go to them, but again, you're dealing with big brands, so we had to sort of put the hours in really, and that's when anyone asked me about what it took at the beginning, it was the hours and the hard work, but thankfully it worked. Setting up the business again, it was just the two of us, so we didn't have HR to worry about. We didn't have all staff to worry about. So that took a bit of a headache. We knew each other. We knew that each one would work hard to get it out. So it wasn't difficult. It was just having the confidence to say, right, this will work. We just need to put the hours in, and eventually we'll get to a place where we can employ people to help grow it. And that's basically it. Once we got our supplier in place, we had an office. I've opened a few businesses before, so I knew that side of it. And Stephen is very, very hot on the finance side of it. So he looks after the finance, and we split the roles. So I look after social media, new products, and stuff like that. So we split our roles down the middle, and finance is his. So I knew, knowing him, I knew that he would always keep on top of the finances, so it didn't run away from us. And thankfully, it didn't. And we're in a healthy place now, which is good.
Looking back 3 years ago, what do you know now you didn't know at the time? Which, if 3 years on, like, what would you have told yourself setting up at the time?
Um, it's a tough one. I that it's difficult. It's not easy. I thought at times, this will get out in front of people, will blow them away, and will sell. It's not. You have to really knuckle down and work hard. Um, but delegation for me is something that I've had to learn a lot along the way. If Stephen was here, he would tell you that it's a big part that I have to sort of knuckle down on and get. I'm still selling. I'm still trying to do all them little bits and pieces that we done at the beginning, but we have staff in place now to do that to help us grow. So delegation would be one way of easing the pain, and the workload, and that's probably, if I told me, rewind 3 years, I would say to myself, when you get staff, delegate a wee bit more, and it would take the pressure off you a bit. But yeah, hard work is the big thing.
I suppose you mentioned the most difficult part, but in terms of running the business now, like, what do you see still as the most difficult part, other than your ability to delegate? But I suppose that's on you. But in running a business like this, what has been the most difficult, or what is the most difficult?
Uh, I don't see anything difficult. I actually love coming into work. It's not, and that's a big part of having your own business. You don't need a pat on the back from an employer. You don't need a bonus at the end of the month. When we get something big over the line, or even a small club's order out, and they're delighted, that's a buzz you get every day, and that gets you into work every day. Difficulties, staff, dealing with staff when you're up to 15, it's not a difficulty, but it's definitely, there's some headaches, and there's some things that you're not used to, and you have to get used to. So but again, a lot of it would be down to delegation. If I had, I've total trust in all the staff, but sometimes it's me. Well, a lot of times it's me letting go, and letting someone run with that, and I am getting better at it. But I kind of need to do a bit more. But no, I don't see anything really difficult in it. I think that the difficult part's over, is getting it off the ground. That first year was tough, and a lot of hours. Your 2 months before Christmas is tough, and long hours and hard work. But there's a buzz at the end of it when the clubs got their order, and like, I'll tell you a funny story. Stephen we were only 3 or 4 months old, and Stephen said he went to Bundoran at Easter. At Easter, and he said, "Oh, next time I go up there, I want to see someone wearing a Playr-fit top," and that was his big thing. And he then, I think he went back in the summer for a long weekend and seen someone. So it was only a few months later he seen someone. So he was buzzing from that. But like every time I go out with the kids, whether it's we were down in Kildare Village there a few weeks ago just for a day, and someone was wearing a Playr-fit top, and the kids out there all excited, Playr-fit there. So look, seeing that is massive, and seeing it all over the country, and then seeing people in the UK and America wearing it as well. It's just it's mind boggling. You can't get a grip on it, but. That first year is the hard bit. I think from that, difficulties really aren't there because we're heading in the right direction as such.
And in terms of the right direction, when did you realize it? Was there that epiphany moment that you realized we're on the right trajectory? Was that you mentioned buzz? What was the first big moment for you guys that you thought, yeah, we're heading in the right direction here?
I think for Stephen it was Bundoran, but for me, funny, we had a year, and then we had obviously COVID, so we didn't know what way COVID was going to go. We're starting to take legs, and all of a sudden, every sport's closed down. We quickly moved over to face masks. We were one of the first to bring out the branded face masks. We brought that out early April. It was actually a joke. I was minding a fella I know in New York. His club had just bought gear off us, and so I got a face mask done with his club's crest, put it on Facebook, and it just went mad. I had companies messaging me on Facebook looking for these face masks, and 200 of them or 400 of them, and we actually worked from home, but it was our busiest time ever. Was that sort of April, May, June of the first lockdown, with face masks and snoods, and when it was Northampton Saints, the rugby crowd. They actually rang me one day asking could they order. I think it was 5,000 face masks. Then it hit me like this isn't Crossmaglen, or this isn't Scottstown or Clonairon. This is Northampton Saints. They're in the Heineken Cup, and they're ordering from us. And even Lotus Cars in England, the massive company, ordered 10,000. It just got crazy. Then I thought, God, this is now not just here in Armagh or in Ireland. This is everywhere. And for me, that was the start of it. That was where this could take legs. And the biggest thing about the face mask was it kept us open, and it got a bit of money in the bank that could help us then go on and push on whenever lockdown closed, which we have done, and we've employed more staff since then because of that. So it was for me, that was the moment that I thought, yeah, this is going to be big.
I mean, yeah. So during COVID, you're saying basically you continue. Obviously it wasn't quite the same products, but you continued as you were, and actually you'd safe to say you grew during COVID.
Yeah. It was more adapting quickly. We had a healthy first year where we could have said, we'll sit, we'll do nothing, we'll ride this out, we'll put Rory on furlough. It didn't happen. We adapted over, and we got busier, and sometimes you have to do that. Like it could have been easy to spend the days out in the garden with the kids. If you remember back to that March and April, it was people going for walks and all that. I was actually looking out at the wife and kids in the garden from a home office, but that's what needed to be done because we had intentions of growing, and we didn't want to just sit and do nothing. Plus, I thought with that social media is massive for us, massive for everyone in business these days. But if we had a shut up shop, we didn't know how long it was going to be for. We then had to start a game with the social and get engagement, where we still kept telling people we're open for business, where we're still selling, which helped the social media thing. So it helped stay relevant really in that social media market. And then when lockdown did open, we were able to go back to our bread and butter, which is sports gear. But we're still selling masks and snoods. We're not going to turn them away. But yeah, when a big club like that or a big company like Lotus Cars, that was. And then what we did was something at the end of it was that we made scrubs. Our supplier was sitting; he wasn't making clothes, so we made scrubs, and we give scrubs away to about 6 hospitals, north and south. Which was we give something back really, which was it it helped that feel good thing, but also like we know these are local hospitals to us. This is like Craigavon and Daisy Hill, and then we give a few to the south as well. And it was just something to give back. When we were busy, it's great being busy and having money come in, but sometimes you think give a wee bit back, and it was good. It was good feeling into them hospitals and leaving scrubs in at that time for the nurses.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you mentioned as well, looking out at your kids and your wife and kids in the garden. A business like this, I'm assuming is all consuming, at the best of times. There must be a strong, strong support network there to be able to, go full hog. And like you said, for someone that struggles to delegate, to go full hog,
Yeah,
it's obviously a great support network from friends and certainly family.
there is, and there has to be. And I think they have sacrificed a bit over the last 2 or 3 years. They know we're doing it for the right reasons. We're building something for them, but it's still probably hard to take that they're out enjoying this the summer and we're working away. But look, it is without them we wouldn't be able to do it, and they know that, we know that, and it is you do need it. I couldn't imagine now if I was going home late, 8:30, 9 o'clock some nights, and there was not a great atmosphere at home. It just wouldn't be right. But fortunately, there is for both of us. We do know their pains, and that there is pain sometimes. When we have to go down to a club in Cork for the weekend. But look, they know that it's for the right reasons, and some they see it too. They get a buzz. I know Fiona, my wife, she'd be the first one to spot a player for top somewhere, so she gets a buzz when it happens, and she'll be sending me social media posts of people sharing it. So they're involved in it too in a way, and even before Christmas, there we had evening shifts of Fiona and my two smallest ones up help picking and packing and getting stuff out. So and Stephen's family were doing the same. It's a family business, and they're all part of it. So it's definitely helpful that they're understanding.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of running your business, if you were to give advice to someone maybe reading this or listening to this and that wanted to get into a business, whatever it might be, what sort of advice, what would you say to that individual or those individuals?
Yeah, it's I would. People are different. I'm one. I'm a firm believer that if you think you've a good idea, you have to give it a go. My wife would disagree with me. She would be a cautious one. At the time, leaving a full paid job to go and start something you mightn't see a wage for 6 months, she couldn't get her head around that. But I'm thinking, definitely, if you have strong beliefs that something can work, it's worth giving it a go. And if it's a 6 month, a year, 2 years, and it doesn't work out, then that's all you've lost, and you can go back to getting a job. So as I said, I've started a few businesses, so I'm kind of I feel entrepreneurial, but not really in a way too. I do take a punt sometimes, and it works out. Sometimes it doesn't. This one definitely has, and hopefully it's the only business I'm going to be starting. There's no need for any more, but yeah, give it a punt, give it a go, put everything behind it, and if you fail, you fail, but you just go again. And the other side of it would be definitely salesmen. Someone told me before that it's worth employing salesmen. Don't be afraid of it, and I think it's something definitely. These people work for 30 days before you pay them. So if they're not worth their salt, then you would know straight away. Um, I was hesitant about Rory, as I said earlier. Rory came on kind of early on when we weren't trying to get someone, but then someone else gave me a bit of advice. Look, salesman is the way to go. They'll sell for you. They'll take the pressure off you. You can manage them, and you don't pay them. You pay them in arrears, which it make total sense when it was said to me, and it's something I would say to other people. In fact, there's a guy reaching out in England, same kind of business. He's doing it on his own for him, and I've said the same to him. But get salesmen to do that for you. You know, you'll know after 6 months if they're worth it. If they're not, then get another one in and get rid of them. But it's taking that risk. People think, oh, salesman's going to cost me 25, 30 grand a year. They don't. They cost you that split into 12 months, and each month they work before you pay them. So when that was said to me about 2 years ago, it made total sense. I never thought of it that way before, and it's the way we both now look at it. They work for 30 days, then you pay them. So in that 30 days, they would have done enough work to cover themselves, and it's not much of a punt then.
15 employees now, Kieran, am I right in saying?
Yeah.
3 years in, you took on Rory in the first year. I'm assuming, how long was it before you brought in someone on after Rory?
Well, it was the January then of the following year, because there was 3 people now selling. We needed someone to do that kind of paperwork, because otherwise me and Steve were going to get dragged into that again. So, so we had an office admin, and then that was it until we moved. We moved office to Newry. Sorry, no, we had 2 more salesmen on board. Then we moved office to Newry. We were based in Culloville, in a small office, and now we're in Newry, which is halfway between both of us. Stephen doesn't have to travel to Culloville anymore, so he's happy. And yeah, so it's grown now to 15, because the more salesmen we have on board, the more people that need to look after them in the office, and that's where it's grown. We have 2 graphic designers in house who deal with all the designs that people are looking for. So, it has to take that natural growth up. So if you employ 3 salesmen, they need designs, they need people to do their invoicing, so it's all part of it. Plus, we were never online, as in transactional online, until COVID hit. So if a club wanted a club shop, we would go out to the club and do that club shop. Or now it's because of COVID, we couldn't go out to clubs, so we quickly went online. It took us about, I think, 3 days to get the website transactional, and because then that we need more staff to cover that. So there's more staff in house here to pick and pack every item. Before, it was I would send a box out to the club, and they would do the picking and packing, because it was a club order. But now it's all individual, so more staff is needed for that. So that's how it's grown to that level. But we have a few things in the pipeline that if they come off, we will need more staff to back that up. So
it brings me on to the point of one of my final points, Kieran, is plans for the future. It's going well, but like you said, you've got a few things in the pipeline. Is there anything you can divulge at this stage, or?
It's just other sports. It's moving into the sports and trying to get sort of move up the ladder in them sports. So it's your local clubs, then move up to sort of your senior clubs, and maybe hopefully one day, touch wood, into a professional club of some sort in a sport. But that's where we're looking to go. Whether it takes a year, it takes 3-5 years, it's definitely somewhere we're looking to go. So it's great seeing people in Bundoran with your top on, but we'd like to see it kind of on the TV at some stage, and that's where we want to go, really, because that's where you get the real buzz. Then when you see the brand out there. But again, it's the other sports that we feel we did apply for GA license, and we were turned down. So hopefully that we can go for that again, maybe in a year or two's time. That'll help us do county teams in here. But while that's not on the table, we felt to go to other sports and try and grow it there as well. We'll go back at it next year and see if there's any moves done next year.